Hi there. A big thank you for checking out CREDC's Fall 2020 Grow Clark County podcast series. I'm so glad you joined us. I'm Marnie Farnes, CREDC's Relationships and Strategies Manager. Last week, we heard from May Wu Fergus, who relayed her experience as an entrepreneur, including tips on raising capital, which of course is always a relevant topic for entrepreneurs. Lots of good information in that podcast. So if you missed it, I encourage you to find it on our website or social media pages like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And of course, don't forget to follow us on those pages as well. Also, a reminder to be sure and check out our WebEx on November 19th, where all our podcast guests from this series will be joining us. Not only will we continue these conversations, but you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Please mark it on your calendar and let others know. Zoom, WebEx, November 19th. All right, today, Josh Engelbrecht joins me. Josh is the dynamic young founder and CEO of the construction technology company Toolbelt. Toolbelt is the first digital solution that connects contractors to skilled labor. As a professional contractor, Josh knew firsthand the challenges of labor procurement in construction, and he set out to solve the problem that plagues the whole residential contracting industry. Josh partnered with co-founder and Toolbelt CTO, Ross Barbieri, a veteran technology entrepreneur. In a very short time, Toolbelt has successfully captured the residential contracting market by storm in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm so excited that you get to hear from Josh today. But before we hear from him, I want to mention that this podcast series is supported by IQ Credit Union, so a big thank you goes out to them. And now, before we hear from Josh, a quick word from Julie Ahrens, Assistant Vice President of Business Services with IQ Credit Union.
Hey, business owners, thank you so much for logging in and clicking in today. We're super excited that you're joining us. My name is Julie Ahrens, also known as IQ Julie, and I'm blessed to work for IQ Credit Union, your local nonprofit, non-bank financial institution in town. We've been around since 1940 helping business owners make their business dreams come true. So whether you're a startup business and you have this dream and you're not ready to take it to the next step, or maybe you've done this for a really long time and you're ready to get out of business, so maybe you need help with succession planning or retirement planning. Whatever stage you're at in your business dream and in your business journey, IQ Credit Union is ready to help you. We've got a large team of business loan officers, business bankers, business account specialists, and we would love to partner with you. So thank you so much for joining us. We're super proud to sponsor the CREDC live podcast series. And whether you're clicking in for the first podcast or maybe you're clicking in just for the live panel event at the end, whatever it is, we're excited you joined us. And IQ Credit Union is super excited to be part of this important series, helping business owners' dreams come true. So next time you need a business loan, business account, or some other business service, we hope you'll consider IQ Credit Union. You'll be glad you did. Enjoy.
Hey, Josh, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks, Marnie. I appreciate you and the CRDC having me. How's it going?
It's going really well, thank you. And we're very excited to have you with us today and sharing your story about Toolbelt, you, and I've already given listeners a little snippet of about who you are and about Toolbelt, just a brief introduction, but perhaps you would just dive in and share more about who you are and about what you're doing there at Toolbelt.
Yeah, great. Well, hey, I appreciate you having me on today. It means a lot. And so I'm sure you've already given our listeners here a little good overview of us. So I'll try to be brief because I don't want to bore them. But essentially, my background, I've been in the construction industry my entire life. So I've been in commercial, I've been in residential. Kind of the challenge, if any listeners, have any colleagues or relatives or in the construction space, one of the main challenges is not really getting work right now. There's a lot of demand, on all construction segments, but it's really hard to find good quality talent. And I think for people wanting to enter the construction trade, it's a career path that doesn't really have a clear picture. And so what that results to is having a skilled labor shortage or a skilled labor capacity problem. And, kind of what my goal was with Tool Belt was kind of realizing that being in the construction space was, all labor was sourced through word of mouth, right?
Mhm.
It's all about, a guy who knows a guy who may be the guy for the job. And then you got to wait for his phone call. And meanwhile, you're given the homeowner or the property owner the stiff arm and saying,
Right.
wait on, I'm still locking down a crew. And it's not that the industry doesn't know anybody. Everyone knows, people,
Mhm.
but how you access them is through word of mouth. So everyone's production capacity is limited by their direct network. And how you access that direct network is through word of mouth. And so I started Tool Belt because essentially it's like the ZipRecruiter Indeed for the construction industry. So we've taken word of mouth and put it online, and really easy to use software. So my co-founder and I, Ross Barbieri, he's the tech side. He's the side that makes us look good. I just, try to keep the ship running.
Right.
We started Tool Belt to kind of solve this, the biggest issue in our industry. So that's how it came about.
Ah, yeah. Well, so businesses are often started because of a hobby or a passion. It sounds like, I don't know if you would say that what you were doing was your passion, but would you say this is true of you? And of course, you did share a little bit about how Tool Belt began, but maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it kind of spawned out of, seeing a problem that everyone was facing every day. And I think the greatest, the greatest products or services are kind of brought out of fruition by people that, are going through a problem. And, if you don't want to, keep doing the same thing over and over again, you try to create a solution that, both sides can benefit from. And I was very fortunate because, I really love the construction industry. It's a very, big passion of mine, actually. And my co-founder, Ross Barbieri, he's a really successful CTO and co-founder businesses in his own right. He's been in the software staffing space. And so the stars really aligned because he had a passion for, delivering staffing solutions. He did it in tech, he did it in healthcare, and now he's doing it in construction. And so, it worked out really well that both of us, had experience, and then we're able to create this solution.
Yeah. So tell me, where were you? Were you just sort of drinking your coffee one morning and you thought, I know, I have a great idea? How was the idea sparked for you?
Yeah, I think it's something that you kind of gather over time. I wish I could kind of tell you it was some aha moment in the light bulb, came on. I just think it's like a natural, where like if you want to find an accountant, right? You don't really call up somebody and say, hey, do you have a cousin who's an accountant, right? You post a job on Indeed or ZipRecruiter, and then they come to you, right? And I think talking to a lot of people in the industry, they were really hungry for a solution like this. And, why I think Tool Belt's had a lot of success is it's very simple to use. And the construction industry gets a bad rap to where people don't think it adopts technology. That's simply not true. We don't build homes the same way we did since 1920, right?
Right. Hey, that's the year my house was built.
Right. We don't use tools that were, you don't hammer in, stuff. You have nail guns and, whatnot now. And so, I think there hadn't been a solution brought to the market that fit the, that fit our space. And so, that's what we really tried to do here. So, and then we launched, late August, early September last year, and we've been really wildly successful after that. And I think it's, because of our team effort.
Sure. So early on, roll the clock back to last August, and from last August 2019 until COVID hit, or maybe even after COVID hit, what have been the biggest sources of heartburn for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think thinking back to 2019, it's back when we all could go to movie theaters, and we would probably be having this podcast in person. Spoiler alert for those listening, we're not, so it's recorded. Right. But I think kind of early on, the biggest heartburn for us was wanting to make sure like our platform's a marketplace, right? So you have to have, people that need framers, and you have to have framers that need work. I think early on, the heartburn, I wanted to make sure delivering value to both sides. And how do you do that at an accelerated manner to make sure that everybody's happy? Because, contractors, like most people, we live in, a very, like, you have to have it instantly right now. Right. And so why a lot of startups fail is they can't get traction. Like, it's kind of like starting a fire. If you can't get it to light, then, it doesn't matter how big the fire is built, it's not going to ignite. And I think early on, just kind of staying grounded and keeping to make sure both sides, we're happy, and refining our product and service offering to reflect that. So I think that was kind of our main heartburn per se. Yeah. It's definitely what kept me up at night. We were really successful at it, but I think we were successful because we were always cognizant of that.
Were you getting feedback from your customers like all the time? Did you seek it out, or did they give it to you, or how did that work?
Yeah, well, we built intentionally, not having software experience, I think really helped me, to be honest with you, because I was really grounded into like not over featuring it. Right. A lot of our investment community, and my partner, he said, we need to just build like a MVP, right? And I never heard about that at the time, but it's a minimal viable product. And then what we did is, we had an original product roadmap based off of what we thought people would want. And as we got into, the market, and launched, we realized we were really tapped in. We had customer support early on. And that was where I spent a lot of our initial seed capital, was tapping in and having human bodies actually, talk to our customers. And a lot of people will tell you like, oh, that's crazy. You should, throw that on, Google Ads or whatnot. And, I really wanted to stay grounded, and I really put key personnel that had experience, in delivering great customer value and building customer experience, like our customer success manager. She has, over 20 years, in the hospitality industry. But, the value that Kelsey brought to our company was she knew on how to create a really great experience for people to keep coming back. And so we try to apply those same principles, to Toolbelt. And that's ultimately why we have like world-class, why we have a world-class retention rate on our platform, is because of that.
That's pretty neat, Josh. So, it's interesting talking to entrepreneurs who are maybe not further than you, but just in general further along. One of the things that I hear them say a lot is, they warn against like chasing the dollar, and they warn against, like they talk a lot about staying true to your vision and not being tossed around, because obviously you'll hear lots of voices that will come at you once you start. So how have you kind of stayed true to your vision and listened to your voice, and yet balanced that with the input and the feedback? Does that seem clear? Yeah.
Totally. I think it's easy, especially in software and being an entrepreneur. It's really glamorous. People, there's a lot of buzzwords thrown out. A lot of people like, they want to use fancy terminology, and this was the secret, and we implemented this, and then I did that. And I could teach anyone how to run this company in 15 seconds, to be honest with you. It's really simple. Like, our core is we want to reduce the friction that it takes to connect people that need labor to people that need work. And so if you have that focused in mind, like, that is what Toolbelt is. People have projects that they need help with, or positions that they need filled. They post them to our platform. We leverage our database to drive really good engagement to people that meet those specific criteria. Everything from a customer input, we need to make that experience better, like faster. And so being true to that, you can, there's always going to be weird input, or not really, sorry, not weird, but there's always going to be like a bug ticket, right? Or someone's like, I think you should build this. And I'm like, actually, it's a great idea. We will in 2022, but right now, because if you can deliver that value, like our value proposition is, 15, 20 people, right? I hear contractors all the time. I know everybody, right? Well, great. You may know 50. You're going to have to call 25 of them in order to see if they're available. We have over 2,000 plus contractors now actively on our platform. I can get to them in, 100th of the time, right? So being true to that, to what value do you have in the market? And, ToolBelt's value in the market is bridging the connection gap between both parties. So that's how we've been able to be successful. And our team makes those decisions because I lead that way. It's like, as long as it goes to that objective, then you have the autonomy to make those decisions for the company.
So another question for you. When, and you may have somewhat already answered this, but looking back now, what have been the most valuable lessons that you've learned, specifically like related to startup?
Yeah, our first investor was, they were Elevate Capital, and Nitin Rai gave me some really good piece of advice early on that I literally have in the front of my notebook that I open up every day, and it says crawl, walk, run, right? And I think originally my goal was like, I wanted to be, launching, I wanted to do in Portland and Seattle and the whole West Coast, right? And, because I was like, oh, it's simple. People just sign up. And, but there's things that there's things that you don't know. And then there's things you don't know that you don't know. And so by crawl, walk, running, you're able to observe it, right? So I don't think you should crawl forever, right? Like start slow, then start speed walking. I don't really do much walking. We speed walk. And then as soon as we can get it to scalable process, then we're running, right? And then just set it to forget it. So crawl, walk, run. I also, if you talk to any of my employees, I'm a firm believer in this saying. I actually learned it in the Army. It says slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? It's like tying your shoe. At first it took forever, but now it takes you a second and a half to tie your shoe. Right. So same principles here.
So where are things at today? You said that you started a little over a year ago. Sounds like you've had a successful year. Where are things at today?
Yeah, so we went live to market over a year ago. The product was in R&D prior to that. So where things are at today is we've actually doubled in size of business. So we've brought on some really good, talented individuals that across all departments of our business. We're in both Portland and Seattle. I think from a Portland standpoint, we have now like close to 10%, if not over, of all contractors are on our software. Phenomenally successful there. Seattle, from a trend standpoint, is actually working better than Portland early on. I think obviously because it's like, we know what we did right, the first time. So then we just did that and injected steroids to it. I think we have a lot of good channel partners that help make it successful. I think, we have the right people on the right seat of the bus now. So now it's all about execution. And so we've brought on some really talented sales reps. We've brought on some more customer success. And we've also been able to help Ross on the dev side, which he's really happy. And so the business is at where kind of exactly where I thought we would be for this part of it. And so we just finished a Series Seed round, actually in COVID. And so I think that was kind of one of our biggest successes is we had new investors as well as follow-on investors invest in our company during when the market was losing 30%. And so
congratulations. That says a lot, actually.
Yeah, well, it was a really big commitment from the local investment community.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited about that. And we've been able to make great use of the investment capital. We're surrounded by really smart and trusted advisors. And that's really why we're at where we're at today. I'm really excited for 2021. I think everybody is, though, so that's not just us.
Yeah. No, but that's great news. So shifting gears a little bit, great idea that you have, great business model. Why Clark County? You could have done this anywhere. You could have started your business anywhere. Why here?
Yeah, well, I think Southwest Washington is one of the fastest growing markets in the state of Washington, which if you look across like the United States is one of the fastest growing states. So I think residential construction's always been one of the heartbeat, of the local community. And, I think we had a team put in place here to do in Southwest Washington and Portland. And just from a commercial real estate perspective and tax, Washington's a lot better than Oregon in that aspect. So we were definitely able to get more bang for our buck from an office space standpoint here in Clark County compared to being one of those fancy high rises in Portland. But it was really good. Southwest Washington and Clark County community has been, really supportive of Tool Belt early on. We got some really good names coming on, our system early on. In fact, the local BIA chapter, partnered with us. And we just, Sherwin-Williams, now we work with Beacon Building Products here locally as well, although both those companies are national. It's a really friendly community. It's a really good business community. I don't think it gets near as much credit as Portland does, but some of the best advice and some of our best advisors and investors have come from Southwest Washington. And so, early on, it was a really good opportunity. So we're really happy that we, work out of Clark County. I think, with companies like Zoom Info, for example, I think it's proof that it doesn't really matter where you start, that you can come out on top and be successful. So we kind of hope to be that next success story.
Yeah. So what's next for Tool Belt?
Yeah, well. So we've been experiencing tremendous growth in the Seattle market, and a lot of competitors are coming in a space now. Obviously you can't be first for long, but we're farther ahead than all of them. And so our goal, is to continue to expand. I can't quite say yet where we're expanding, but it's one of the largest markets in the country. A lot of our partners want to take us there. A lot of our investors want to go us there, especially, they're seeing the results right now from the growth and the revenue. And so people are really excited. And the market that we go to, we think that we're going to really be able to win the race in 2021. And so we're really excited now, showing that. I think kind of the biggest thing we had to prove, not only to, ourselves, but to a lot of other people is, you can do it here locally and in Portland, but can you do it in Seattle? Can you do it in another market that's bigger, right?
Yeah.
And we're more than surpassing expectations, both internally and externally. And so 2021, we think is going to be, a huge year, for our team. So we're really excited about going to the next big market.
Well, Josh, I think we're out of time for today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really appreciate it, Marnie. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited for our listeners to hear your story. It's, I met you, of course, in my workforce development days. And so it's been fun to watch just Tool Belts grow and mature. And I can't wait to see what 2021 holds for you. And we're just so glad that you're a part of our business community here in Clark County.
It's great. Well, I appreciate you guys having me. I think you guys do a tremendous job for the community. And so we're really glad to have you as partners.
Thanks, Josh. Great stuff from Josh, don't you think? How exciting to hear about Tool Belt's success and also some of what went into it. could have talked to Josh for hours. A couple of things. Again, don't forget about our panel WebEx on November 19th. And if you have questions after listening to any of these podcasts, join us and get them answered. I also want to give a shout out to Washington State Vancouver's Business Growth Mentor and Analysis Program through the Carson College of Business for their partnership. Okay, join us next week and hear from Camus's very own Fuel Medical, where their HR director, Sarah Laughlin, will share her valuable insights from her HR experience. It's one thing to run a business with just one person, that person being yourself, but start adding employees and the game changes. If you have employees or if you're thinking of having them, next week we'll provide you with some good information. On behalf of CREDC, thanks so much for listening and have a fantastic week.